Let's talk about money, a topic that everybody loves to talk about. And let's talk about the benefits of creating a war chest. If you don't know what a war chest is, it's an amount of money that you can accumulate and stack to the point where you could stop working for a period of, let's just say, 6 months and you would be fine. That's a war chest. Now, the only way that you can create a war chest is by, listen carefully, having way more income compared to your expenses. Essentially, save a lot of money. And when you accrue a war chest, a lot of cool shit happens. And personally, I'm in the position I am now as a 7-figure entrepreneur because I created a war chest in my 20s. Now, I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just telling you. Because I see so many people who don't have a war chest, and the financial insecurity that literally eats their brain alive hour by hour, day by day, week by week is crippling. Their time and energy is zapped by the fact that they are fully stressed 24/7 because they don't have a war chest. Essentially, they're in survival mode. Picture a lion out in the outback. Picture a lion out in the Serengeti in Africa, constantly searching for food, almost starving. Now, I know the majority of people are not starving, but we're talking about the average human in Australia. The average salary in Australia is $108,000, but that's brought up by the wealthy. The median salary, which is much closer towards the average, much more relatable, is $65,000 per year, Australian, AUD. So, let's just say that you earn $65,000 per year and your expenses over the past couple of years have been about $55,000 a year. Rent, food, bills, everything that you spend in a year, you save $10,000 per year. $55,000 expenses, $65,000 income. Now that's pre-tax as well. So realistically, you're probably going to end up not even saving that much money. But let's just say 65 after tax, which is not actually the median. It's a bit higher. It's a bit lower. But 65K after tax. You've got a 10K gap between your income and your expenses, right? So you're going to save 10K a year. Now, what happens when things such as inflation and cost of living go up, when you are stuck in this salary, is your gap between your income and expenses gets closed really fast. And that's what's happening to a lot of people now because the rate of expenses going up has far surpassed the rate of income going up, which means that these gaps of safety, these war chests that you're supposed to be accruing, actually isn't happening anymore. And people are not only not accruing money, but they're actually going backwards. And their war chests are getting eaten because what's happening is it's not about the cost of living going up. Yes, that is happening. But why these people are not accruing income higher than their expenses, creating a war chest, adding to their war chest, is because they don't know how to make money outside of their 9 to 5. And as brutal as this might sound, the majority of people don't know how to make money. They only know how to earn money. They only know how to sell their time for money. And that's how majority of people make their money. They go to work, get paid an hourly rate, they show up for their 40 hours a week and they go home. That's their salary. And a lot of people don't do anything outside of that. Nothing else. They get home, on Friday nights they go and get drunk, Saturday nights they go and get drunk, Sunday they sit around hangover watching Netflix, see their family, friends, whatever, and then Monday they go and do it all again. Now that's a problem when the cost of living goes up. And that's a pretty negative, morbid way to look at it. Because the reality is, there are two solutions to the cost of living. Number one is what the majority of people do who live in scarcity. And that is the first instinct when they hear something is going up is, I need to save money. First instinct, I need to grab onto every money that I have and hold onto it. And in theory, you will keep that gap here as opposed to here. Because what you're doing is you're allowing less money to leak out. But what you need to understand is there is a cap on how much you can save. There is not a cap on how much you can make. And a lot of people don't even know or have this thought. But it's why I'm in the position I am now, because I couldn't even tell you, again, not bragging, I couldn't even tell you how much things have gone up by. I couldn't tell you what things cost. I wouldn't have a fucking clue. I simply do not know because I don't care. Because I earned that much money that my expenses don't matter and never will because my income is destroying my expenses. So when the cost of living goes up, fantastic. I couldn't give a fuck because my income's going up at a much faster rate because I accrued skills, knowledge, and experience that allowed me to do this. And that for me is the biggest cheat code on the planet. I'll go back to that in a second. I'm not going to talk about how I did this because they're in other videos on my channel. But I want to talk about the mindset of someone who wants to save. Because as I said, there's a cap on how much you can save. You can't reduce your expenses to zero. It's not possible. You can't reduce your mortgage to zero. You can't reduce your rent to zero, your bills, your electricity, your gas, your water, and your food. It can't go to zero. Those expenses are built in. There is essentially a base amount that you need to pay. There's a minimum that you're going to be paying, whether that be $35,000 a year, whatever that is. Now, yes, you can delete subscriptions, you can delete holidays, you can delete alcohol, drugs, fucking all these other things that you want to spend your money on, and you might be able to save an extra 10 or 15K a year, which will inevitably create that gap and maintain that gap. But then you're living in a world that you don't really want to live in because now you're making sacrifices that, yes, you should do. If you're going to be reckless with your money, you definitely can benefit from making correct sacrifices. But inevitably, you don't have to make sacrifices if you know how to make more money. Because when you know how to make more money, you don't have to worry about making sacrifices because you know that your gap is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger because you're earning money at a greater rate than the expenses are going up. So inevitably what you're doing is creating that war chest. Now, that's my explanation on creating the war chest. But now I want to talk about the benefits of the war chest because these are some of the things that people don't actually understand because they never actually get to the point of creating a war chest, so they don't get to understand the benefits of having that war chest. Now, think of the war chest as just an amount of money where you could just quit your job tomorrow and know for 6 to 12 months that you don't have to worry about money. You've got enough to survive, you've got enough to live, you don't care, right? Maybe at the end of the 6 months, you might be starting to think, fuck, I'm running out of money now, or 12 months. But reality is, you've got that war chest there. You, in theory, could just go and quit your job, right? Now, I want to use another analogy here, which I've made up myself, and I think it's a really good one to explain to people how to view this in a visual way. Now, let's just say there is a building which has an unlimited amount of stories, right? Floors, 5,000 floors, 10,000 floors, 100,000 floors, unlimited amount. This analogy here is how much money you're making. We all know that there is an unlimited amount of money that you can make on this planet. There's no cap. But with your expenses, of course, there's a cap. Now, in theory, I could make $1 billion per year if I had the skills to do that. So I'd be on level 1 billion, let's just say. Most people are not going to get there in their life, of course. But let's just take this to a really, really easy analogy. And let's just say that there's a world where we have this massive tidal wave, a tsunami, and all this water's coming. And we're in this building, right? And our job is to get up the building as high as we can away from the rising flood water. And I want you to think of the flood water as the cost of living, expenses. As you know, as time goes on, things go up. That water goes up. Now, for most people, they're starting on level 0, and this wave comes. And they've got a week before this wave gets to level 1. And then another week before it gets to level 2. And then level 3, level 4. And the majority of people are only either on the level that the water is, almost drowning, or they're just at the level where they're about to drown and they need to get up. They've got about a 1 or 2 week leeway or a month leeway before they get drowned. And this analogy here is really crucial because what you need to aim to do is create a massive gap between where the water level is and where you sit on the building. Because the further you can get away from that water by creating the gap between your income and your expenses, the further you can get away from that water, right? The more time and energy you can use on getting skills, knowledge, and experience to make you more money. And this is what the average person who lives paycheck to paycheck doesn't have. Their brain is stuck in survival mode. They're literally treading water. They can't swim. They've got to get up. The water's literally at their ankles and then at their knees, and then they get paid and it goes back down to their ankles. And then the next week gets up to their chest and they get paid again. It goes back down to their ankles. And then eventually, they just do this over and over again, and it's tiresome. They don't have the brain width or the mental bandwidth to think. They don't have the time and energy to be able to get out of the survival mode, essentially. And as I said, it's tiresome. But if you can somehow create a gap between that rising floodwater and yourself, and you can get 4 levels above, and then 10 levels above, and then 50 levels above, then all of a sudden, the game changes. Because in your spare time, you're no longer worrying about getting paid next week because the water's just there. You start actually looking at ways to make way more money to get even further ahead. And once you do this, the game's over. Because after a while, you learn skills, knowledge, and experience that make you even more money. So that then you look at the rising floodwater and you're like, okay, cool. I've got 30 weeks before that floodwater gets anywhere near me. So I can go away and I can invest 100 hours this week or this month into learning another skill that's going to make me more money. Or it's going to allow me to get paid more. It's not always about just making more money, because obviously not everyone wants to have the entrepreneurial mindset. It might just be learning more skills to make you then get paid more because you have higher skilled, you become more appealing to an employer, and then you can go and make more money through the fact that you are now way more valuable as an employee. So you might go 60K salary to now 100K salary because you've gone and learned something that you didn't learn before, and then you go to the employer and say, I can do this, look at all this shit I've been practicing, here's my work, bang, pay me 100K, cool. And that only happened because you had the gap between the rising floodwater and where you were on the building, because you had the time and energy to get away from the rising floodwater and not have to worry about the financial stress of the water just being at your feet. This is what I did through my 20s. I accrued a gap of, let's just say, 80K, and I didn't work. I made my money off a side hustle, which is what we teach now. But I got to a point where I was sick of that side hustle because I wasn't actually passionate about it. I was just making money. There was no purpose, goals, desire. And I stopped the money I was making from that side hustle because I wanted to do something else. But because I had the time, the energy, the mental bandwidth, and the security of having that war chest, I was able to then create a business which is now solving problems for the consumers, and I'm making way more money, and I don't care about the floodwater anymore. But I was only able to do that because I had my war chest, because I knew the floodwater was 80 levels below me. And I knew that I had all the time in the world to go and spend literally hundreds of hours making content, courses, educational videos, yada, 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 making business plans and learning and just doing all sorts of things that didn't require me to get paid while I was doing it. That's the key. If you don't have to get paid for the work that you're doing in the short term, you then have an ability to go and invest your time for free, essentially, because you're not getting paid, knowing that you're going to get paid way later. There would have been a period of 6 months where I just made videos and educational content, courses, and then I knew that I was going to get paid later because people were going to invest in that because I was teaching them something. And I was only able to do that because I had the war chest. I had the time and the financial security to be able to do that. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, fuck, how do I do this? I work 9 to 5. What fucking time do I have to go out there and learn more skills? I guarantee you have time. You just haven't got your priorities right yet. Everybody has the same amount of time in a week. Every single person. Everyone does different things with their time. And if you looked at your screen time on your phone, I guarantee you'd find the hours if you really wanted to. I promise you will. If you spend 10 hours a week on social media scrolling Instagram, replace that with 10 hours of YouTube of successful people and surround yourself with that. If you spend 10 hours a week going out and getting hammered every weekend, or 20 hours a week doing that, go and spend that time doing something else. And after 3 months, 6 months of doing this, investing your time into learning more skills, I guarantee you'll start earning more money. And your war chest will start to build because you now have the skills to be able to make more money. And then, in an extreme case, you might have a job where you hate it. I've spoken to people that fully hate their job through our community, and they've gone and made ridiculous amounts of money from what we teach. And then they're able to be like, fuck you, boss, in the nicest way possible. I don't want to do this anymore. I've got a war chest. I'm quitting. And I'm going to go and actually do something that I really want to do, because I have the ability to do that because I don't care about the floodwater way down there. It's fucking miles away. Get binoculars down there. Look at that water, fucking miles away. All those people literally treading water, and I'm up here because I got that war chest. Fully cheat code. And the best part about this all, or the most underrated part about this all, is the mental clarity that you will get by having the war chest. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have every single second of every single day worrying about surviving, it's fully draining. It eats your energy and your time. At the end of the week, you just want to get hammered. You want to escape all this reality. You want to go and get drunk with your colleagues. You want to forget about it all. And you just sort it out on Monday. And you'll start swimming again. You'll start treading water and repeat it all again. Just enough so that you have enough survival. But then eventually the rising flood water starts going a lot higher and faster. And that's where problems start to happen when you don't know how to make money. All I'm saying here is, if you're watching this and this is relating to you, you need to pull your finger out. There are people out there, and I've spoken about this on TikTok, people out there genuinely get triggered by this and they start attacking me and saying that I grew up wealthy and I was a rich child and all this stuff. Whether I grew up in a wealthy family or not has no relevance to you, because that doesn't help you. My dad came here from Cyprus. He's no longer with us. And he would have had his shoes and fucking some clothes. He started his business when he was 18 or 19 as an air conditioning mechanic. And he was able to accrue some wealth by working hard. And I grew up in a wealthy family, for sure. Did that help me to get to where I am now? Of course. Because I was able to see how money was made. The hustle. My dad worked fucking six days a week. And I was able to go overseas on holidays with my family. But what I will say is, I didn't get that spoiled brat vibes that people grow up with around rich people and things like that. I didn't have that, right? There was cash all around us as we grew up. My dad obviously was an air conditioning mechanic back then in the 90s, in the 2000s. A lot of people paid cash, whatever. I'd see cash all the time around the house. That made me know that money was abundant. So whether that's just inherently in my brain now, I started selling soft drink cans when I was in high school at 15. Made $1,500 off it. Learned that way of making money. Then when I was 18, I started doing side hustles, flipping things online. Then I moved into other things, etc., etc. To the point where I'm like, well, this is fucking easy. How can you not make money? When you see someone out there who doesn't know how to make money, you're like, well, fuck, they don't think of this. They don't see an opportunity like I do when I see this. I see like, okay, cool, that. Like, I could make a business out of that. That's what I'm thinking when I see something new. Other people don't even think of that because that's just not how they're wired, right? So all I'm saying is this. If you're someone who's getting eaten by inflation and cost of living, there's no point sooking about it. You've got a choice. You can either keep saving, which I promise you won't work long term, or you can learn how to make more money. And I guarantee you, if you learn how to make more money, there'll come a time where eventually, if you put enough hours into learning skills and surrounding yourself with people who are making more money and just putting more effort and opening your eyes and being more conscious with trying to make money, eventually, you spend enough time on that, you do it for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, your life will be completely different in 12 months. And I'm not saying you'll never have to worry about money again, like me, but I'm 32 and I've been doing this for 14 years. And it might sound overwhelming that you haven't even started this, but you've got to start one day. And once you start, you can't unsee these skills. That's the best part about this. Once you learn these skills, you can't undo them. Unless you go into the Harry Potter 2 Chamber of Secrets and you get faced with Gilderoy Lockhart and he gives you a memory charm and you lose your memory, then you've got these skills forever. I know I'm being tongue-in-cheek there, but that's literally the only way that you can lose these skills is if someone rips your brain out of your head. Because once you know how to make money, I promise you'll never forget how to make money. And I make funny jokes about this, and the boys think I'm a fucking idiot, but I stand by this. And I saw a billionaire say this the other day, and I'll leave you guys with this. Once you know how to make money, you can strip every single dollar off me right now, and I'll make it all again, because I know how to do it. Once you know how to do something, you'll be able to do it forever. Don't worry about the money. The money's just a number. The mental clarity, time, energy, and resources that you can invest because you don't need to survive for a certain period of time, you then get this like escape velocity to be able to launch higher up the building. You create a gap of 4, and then 10, and then 50, And then when you get to 50, you then get to 500. And the water's so far below you that you literally need a fucking telescope to find it. And that's when you know the game's over. And when you get to that level, it doesn't really become about money anymore. It becomes about internal reward and success. And that's the part where I'm up to. And a lot of people don't understand this because they don't have a war chest. But once you've created a war chest, you understand that money isn't really a thing. So that's it. A rant about money. I could talk about this topic literally for days. I just wanted to take one thing away from this. It's that if you are someone who doesn't have a good relationship with money, you're not financially secure, you don't have much financial freedom, you're probably going to have a bit of an issue comprehending all of that. You might get a little bit triggered. You might not like what I said in there, but just know that the only reason you will feel negative towards that comment, if you do feel negativity, if you do feel triggered, if you do feel like that's making you angry, the only way you're going to get out of that is if you actually change your financial situation. And the only way you can do that, I hate to break it to you, is you've got two options. You can either save more, which I promise you, you will never ever get way ahead of the rising flood water if you just save, or you can learn how to make more money. And if you learn how to make more money, the benefits are fucking crazy. Not just because of the money, but more because of what you can do in your life when you don't have to worry about money. The financial freedom not only means you can spend money on whatever the fuck you want. Like, I can literally spend money on whatever I want. Like, of course, I'm not going to go get a private jet. I'm not at that level. But I can go to dinner and spend $1,000 and I wouldn't give a fuck. That's not gloating. That's just what happens when you get so far ahead of your expenses. And it's a feeling that a lot of people never get to experience. And it's one that I want more people to experience, because your whole perception of life changes. You become less transactional. You don't care about when you go to dinner, you're going to split bill or think about how much you're spending. You just do it and you live in the moment and you just do it. My dad used to have this, and whenever we went out for dinner, I think he had a bit of chauvinistic qualities, but he always had to be the one that paid. And yeah, cool. Maybe it was because of his ego and chauvinistic, he had to be the one that paid. But it's a cool feeling to be able to just spend money on whatever you want because you know you can make it. And I love doing this myself. I love giving money to people. Like when I went to Africa, I gave these guys like 2-3 months worth of rent at the end of my hike when I climbed Kilimanjaro. That for me makes me feel good. And that can only be done because I learned how to make a ridiculous amount of money. That was way more than my expenses. And trust me, it's a pretty cool feeling, because even if I was to lose it all, I know how to make it. And you can never take that away from me. So not only will you get that gap between your expenses and your income, but what's more important is the skills that you learn along the way. The way you think, the way you perceive an opportunity, the way you view life in a different lens. And that's something that more people should experience, I believe. So I like to think that if you stick around my channel, I'll be able to help you to start identifying more money-making opportunities, give you more financial freedom, help the way that you think, eliminate mistakes that I made. And I'm going to continue vlogging my journey as an entrepreneur in a 7-figure business that's now 5 years in. And the coolest part about what I'm doing right now is not just me, but the whole team, myself, Steve, and Tom, who are directors of our company. We vlog every meeting. We do, every single thing is filmed. Because one day, I'm going to share that with you all in a massive amount of content on YouTube or a documentary style Netflix. Because for me, I couldn't give a fuck if people get free value out of my stuff. I want them to benefit. Because what I've identified in my life is I no longer get reward from money. I get reward from seeing people that I help. And a lot of people won't believe that because they don't have an enormous amount of money. They don't have a war chest. They're constantly in scarcity mode. And they don't view money the same way as I do. Whereas once you know how to make money and you have enough of it, you then have a different perception on things. And my currency, my payments, are through other people's gains. It's a weird one to explain. When I get a comment on my YouTube and says, hey, I've just sent this to 10 people, thank you for your video, payment. I feel like I've done something good. And that's my oxygen, that's my fuel, that's what I'm chasing. I want to help 1 million people change their lives. 1 million. Now that's a dangerous goal because I know I'll achieve that. It's inevitable. I just need to keep posting more of this content for long enough. But when I get to that 1 million, then what? So it's a little bit of a dangerous goal. But I'm happy to do that first and then deal with the shit that comes after. Anyway, I'll quit talking shit. If you enjoyed this, give it a like. See you next time. Cheers.